Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, welcome to Battlefields of Mana 31-day Battle Report Challenge. That's right, it is day 4. That means our 4th battle in this campaign to control the land of Mana. And here is where we are so far. And actually what I'm going to do, as soon as I can find a pen, is I'm going to start numbering these little stickers so we can, because, you know, the more and more, there's going to be 31 stickers on this campaign map by the time we're done. And it would be nice to be able to see kind of where the battles have taken us and in what order. At least so far, we can kind of recall from memory. And if any of you have not seen any of the prior battles, they're up. Go check them out. They are abbreviated, so instead of recording 2, 3, 4, 5 hour long battle reports, I just take post-turn summaries, and that results in a 20 to 30 minute video. And I actually do like that just for the sake of time, though you do miss the dice roll. So let me know in the comments what you'd prefer, because I would not mind recording the entire thing. Just, you know, I feel like it's just so long sometimes. All right, anyway, so day 4, here is where we've been so far. The battles began in the Forest of Arcadia, won by the Regal Guard. We headed south, where the Lunar Knights scored a victory in the Mist Oak Forest. And then over to the west, in the village ruins, the Lunar Knights laid in wait and scored a second consecutive victory. In this campaign, it is 2-1. Here we go, battle number 4. Hopefully you've picked a side. If not, now's a good time. Are you going to go with the hot commodity, the Lunar Knights, who can't seem to do any wrong in these last 2 battles? Or are you going to stick with the Regal Guard, knowing that, my God, they constantly roll so well? All right, either way, pick your poison. We are going to get set for battle number 4. First, we have to decide where is it going to be, and then how big of a battle is it going to be. Let's find out right now. All right, we have a number 6 and a number 1. Oh my gosh. Here we go. Number 6, the Marauder Camp, Tier 1. Tier 1 and roll to 1 is 8 points. This is going to be very interesting. I actually do like these smaller battle reports. Here's the little Marauder Camp, 8 points. 8 points aside. This really kind of shows the efficiency of building an army with a point total this low. Let's see what each side can do after we set up some terrain. All right, folks, and here is terrain for this Batrep. So what do we have here? Well, honestly, I love these little fence pieces. Hopefully the lighting's good enough for you to see that. The fences and these like little ramshackle barricades. So these are just some walls, maybe some remnants of an old Marauder camp. 3 inches on the, per the terrain rules, 3 inches from the board edge, 5 inches from a deployment zone. So there's 5 inches along this edge, 3 inches along this edge. 3 inches is essentially long enough for 1 unit wide to skirt this board edge, to skirt the length of the board. And then, so it's going to be interesting to see, does anyone go for either side, or do these walls kind of force everyone into the center? Walls, I'm not even going to give a cover save. I'm just going to say, for this battle report, these walls block line of sight entirely. So we'll see how things go. Oh, by the way, what's this? Oh, the errata fairy has dropped off some notes. So battles of equal to or less than 15 points include no warlord or sorcerer. So today's battle of 8 points, no warlord or sorcerer. What does that mean? Well, we aren't going to see these folks anytime soon. Now, why is that? Well, by killing a warlord or sorcerer, that's 5 points. In an 8-point battle, 8 points worth of troops, killing a 5-point warlord or sorcerer probably is going to seal you the deal. But not only that, they're so powerful that it just becomes who can use their warlord the most effectively. So we are going to sit out the warlords and sorcerers for smaller battles and just focus on the troops. And honestly, I'm excited to give that a try. Haven't done that before. So that is what terrain looks like. 8 points worth of Lunar Knights and Regal Guard coming up. All right, folks, here is army selection and deployment. And I've got to say, when you say 8 points, I mean, Rick, come on, 8 points. But I mean, look at these armies. And I'll tell you what, I chose the Regal Guard's force first, and they are just so efficient with their points. So let's take a look at them first. We have a 2-point unit of swordsmen whose specialty is close combat defense with their parry saves. 2 2-point units of archers. They have a 12-inch range. That's their key. And then lastly, a 2-point unit of spearmen. They get to go first in the first round of combat. They get to use their back rank for supporting attacks. What else? I think that's it. They'd also have a special against cavalry, of which there are none. I was close to including some, though. And then over here on the Lunar Knight side of things, I'll tell you what, I think it may have taken me longer to construct this little force than any army so far, because I kind of had an idea of what the Regal Guard were doing. For the Lunar Knights, I didn't necessarily want to build an army to counter them, because, if 2 players are constructing their forces, they don't know what the other is doing or what the other is bringing. So it was just a situation where I decided, let's go with our own strategy and see how it meshes. And this, I just can't wait for this. This is going to be insane. Folks, this is a 4-point unit of flail bearers. That's right, this is an 8-point battle. Half of the points are right here in this unit. These flail bearers roll 3 dice apiece in the front rank. And in the first round of combat only, they get an extra die apiece, as if maybe the last rank or the rear rank also contributes, or you can just think of it. It's called Frenzy. So it's like, the first round of combat, they are swinging those flails. So they each get an extra die. That's 12 dice in the first round of combat, assuming they're all still alive when they get into a combat. And then 6s explode. That's right. So they're rolling 12 dice in the first round of combat. 6s explode. That's what I kind of wanted to do. I wanted to get a unit that runs up there. Plus, they're pretty good on initiative, too, in terms of being able to go first in combat. Because, again, there's no warlords here. Also, no one spent any points on unit commanders. Because, of course, when you only have 8 points. But flail bearers have initiative bonus of 3, which is the highest here in this battle. So apart from that one unit of spears, who will always go first, the flail bearers will, you never know, may go first. So 2 1-point units of peasant militia, 1 2-point unit of swordsmen. So again, swordsmen have the parry save. 2 1-point units of peasant militia. So why do they do this? Well, the numbers game, but partially because they need bodies. And I know I said I didn't create an army to counter the Regal Guard, but maybe I kind of had what they were doing in mind, because I knew they had 2 units of archers. These arrows are going to come flying. We need this precious unit of flail bearers to survive, so we need meat shields. That's what those peasant militia are for. And those swordsmen have a decent defense. And so Lunar Knights of the Obsidian Eclipse rolled highest to deploy first and then go first. I don't actually think they're too happy about that. They'd rather the Regal Guard of the Golden Solstice go first so they can see where those archers wind up. But it's a 6-round battle, and we will see what the action is. We'll come back after round 1. All right, folks, here is the end of round 1. Just a lot of positioning. So the peasant militia moved up, the swordsmen and the flail bearers moved up right in behind them. Those are the meat shields. And they moved up strategically so that after 4 inches of movement by the Regal Guard archers, the Regal Guard archers would have 12 inches of range, and they would be just outside of that. So they wouldn't get a shot off on them turn 1. And then the spears and the swords. I mean, the fences are in a position where 4 units wide just doesn't fit through those fences. So the swordsmen and the spears, if you can kind of see, kind of had to move inward just a little bit, but that's okay. In fact, they almost kind of want to be meat shields for the archers. But, since the Lunar Knights have no range, they both moved up their full 8 inches, and it is now back over to Lunar Knight. So after round 1, movement, that's it. Obviously, there's no magic phase whatsoever, no ranged happen this time, and also no close combat. So we're still moving up, 5 rounds to go to see who ends up taking this Marauder camp battle. So we'll be back after round 2. All right, folks, end of round 2. We finally have some bloodshed. So here's what happened. The block of meat shield and decent troops moved up, and I think that was pretty much their full movement. They moved up really far. They moved up entirely so that the Regal Guard, who were in front of them, were just like a millimeter. And that's on purpose. The Regal Guard moved up far enough so that after 8 inches of their movement, they would be just out of contacting them. And they did that on purpose so they could skirt by without having to break away, knowing that those units probably weren't going to tie themselves up with peasant militia worth a point apiece. The flail bearers and the swordsmen kind of positioned themselves at an angle back here, just so that they were up so far, hopefully the swordsmen and the spearmen on the other side wouldn't be able to actually move up and get a flank on them. So they kind of positioned themselves outward a little bit like that, so that they wouldn't give up their flanks. And that's exactly what happened. So the swordsmen on this side came down just a little bit, moved up, and contacted them, and they all shifted over. Of course, it was outside of their single movement, so they didn't get a charge, didn't get a combat this turn. Exact same thing over there with the spearmen. And then that opened up the archers. And I was thinking, maybe I should not have moved the archers up. Maybe I should have left them back, so then it would take the peasant militia longer to get to them. But in all reality, the peasant militia have a total movement of 8. So yeah, even if they were all the way back there, they still would be able to get contacted. The good news is the peasant militia aren't going to get a charge on them, so they won't be doing any melee damage this turn, because they only have a 4-inch move, which would get them to about right there. Isn't that something? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, it'll be about a third of an inch more than they have. So they'll still contact them, which the archers want. The archers are both going to get free volleys on them when they move into contact. They won't be able to get close combat this turn. And the archers have already each killed a peasant militia. So it'll be interesting to see. This is kind of how I thought it would play out. Here we go. It's going to be interesting. Flail bearers with all those attack dice against swordsmen with their parry saves. So that's why the Regal Guard paired the swordsmen up with them. They are the better defensive unit. Spearmen against swordsmen is going to be just a classic matchup, honestly. The spearmen will get to go first. That's one of the benefits of polearm. So they're going to be getting 9 dice. And again, the swordsmen are the ones with that parry save. So all those dice against parry saves, all these dice against parry saves, that's a 2-point unit versus a 2-point unit, but this is a 2-point unit versus a 4-point unit. This is where the meat and potatoes are, right here. So we'll see if the swordsmen end up falling over here, and the spears can come down and help out the swords here if the swords can hang on long enough, if the archers can hold on long enough and do enough wounds to these peasant militia. So very interesting. We'll see what ends up happening, and we'll be back at the end of round 3. All right, folks, end of round 3, the halfway point of the game. Here is what has occurred. So we saw the peasant units had each lost a peasant from shots from the archer. So on their turn, they had to use both of their movement actions to move up into contact. So they didn't get to close combat on their turn. But moving into contact with a ranged unit like that right in their front did trigger a free volley from the archers. That did some more wounds to each of the units, and then on the archer player's turn, the Regal Guard, what they did here on this first combat was they just braced themselves. What they figure is what they want to do is what we'll discuss in just a second, is break away, shoot again, and then when the peasants move into contact with them again, they'll get another free volley. So they're just going to keep slowly backing up till they have nowhere else to go, and then they'll fight in melee if they absolutely have to. So, but to break away without penalty means you got to roll higher in initiative. Right now, they're only a difference of 1. This is initiative bonus of 0. That's an initiative bonus of 1. So it's a little risky, but the initiative bonus gets a -1 penalty when they're panicked, which is half, 50% or less of the unit remaining. This unit only has a single wound left before it's panicked. So this unit of archers figures, yeah, it'll try to break away when the disparity between the two is greater than 1. So 1 more wound here, and then they'll think about breaking away. Up here, at the time, there was still another peasant there, so it was a little bit of a longer wait, so they decided to just go for it, and they did. They broke away without penalty, scooched back to there, fired, of course, moving and shooting in the same turns, a -1 penalty, and they killed another peasant. So now when this peasant unit charges in, they're going to receive another free volley. So it's just very interesting what's going on here. And that's the way it looks. The peasants haven't had the opportunity yet to attack, so we'll see what happens next turn when they actually do get to fight in melee. Now over here is where the interesting happenings are going on. So we had the swordsmen and the spears. The spears went first in that original exchange. I believe they killed 1 swordsman. No, they only did a wound. They did a wound to a swordsman. And then the swordsman killed a spearman. And then on the Regal Guard turn, the spearman did a second wound to the swordsman and killed him. And the swordsman just flat out killed another spearman. So they're trading off 1 wound to 1 dead spearman. That's a good ratio for the Lunar Knights. Down here is a little bit more strenuous. The flail bearers, don't forget this unit costs twice as much as this swordsman unit, and the amount of wounds done has been practically identical. These attack rolls for the flail bearers are so poor. Don't forget, on that first exchange, these flail bearers had 12 dice, 6s explode. They were only able to do, God, I don't even remember now, maybe 2 wounds, which is absolutely insane. But of course, those swordsmen do have parry. So, but then the swordsman back did, nothing, I don't think, that first turn. But then they just did 3 wounds, killed a flail bearer and put a wound on another one. Flail bearers on their second round of combat only had 9 dice, but still 9 dice. 6s explode. They only had 5 hits, and they weren't even very big hits. And so yeah, what's going on down there is not too pleasant for the flail bearers, but we are about to move into round 4, top of round 4, with the Lunar Knights turn, and we'll see what happens after the round concludes. We'll be back at the end of 4. End of turn 4. Round 4. This is not looking good for the Lunar Knights. I just don't understand. This is just poor dice rolling. So the flail bearers are taking 3 wounds a turn, essentially, because the swordsmen are only rolling 6 dice. But the flail bearers on defense are rolling 1s and 2s. Same thing on attack. They managed to do a wound this turn after having rolled 9 dice. 6s explode. Did they roll any 6s? No. They scored 3 hits of 3 or better on 9 dice. Is that not absolutely insane? 3s or better on 9 dice. You should have at least 6 hits. At least. So, yeah, it's just poor die rolling. So that's unfortunate because that's a huge point sink for those flail bears. This 2-point unit of swordsmen are just killing them. They're eating them alive. Up here, we're just trading wounds. The swordsmen are ahead by 2 wounds, essentially. And then over here, the archers continue to do what archers do, which is break away, move back, fire, and then when the peasants charge in, they get a free volley again. There is going to be a rules update where the minimum you can move back, or the minimum you can break away is an inch, because otherwise they could just keep backing up a fraction of an inch and then do that process, and a fraction of an inch, and do that almost infinitely. So if you have to at least move an inch, then that restricts the number of times you can do this, as long as there's a boardage behind you. Because that strategy is just chipping away at those peasants who are arguably better in melee than the archers. The archers in melee have -1 to all their die rolls. Now, the peasant militia do have to reroll 6s, but still, that's not as bad as -1 to all die rolls for attack and defense. This lower archer unit decided to do the breakaway and actually did take a wound from breaking away. This unit up top here got charged and took a wound in melee. I don't think this archer unit down here took any wounds when they had a close combat. So that's it. Bottom of 4. We are moving up to Lunar Knights, round 5. They're probably going to start bracing down here. They don't want to lose that unit. They've already suffered half or less, so we'll see what happens at the end of round 5. Folks, take a peek. You're looking at essentially a miracle here. All right, so this is the end of round 5. There's only 1 turn of the game left. The entire game, the flail bears were getting their buns absolutely slapped. So on their turn, they only have 3 wounds left. For having that unit, cutting that unit in half was only a victory point. So they figured they still have 3 points left. They don't want the Regal Guard to get those 3 points. So they brace themselves, essentially getting an extra defense die and not taking their attack that turn, because it was, there used to be 3 other swordsmen over here. Unbelievably, on the Regal Guard phase, hoping to just mop up the rest. They were doing an average of about 3 wounds a turn. That should have eliminated them. Folks, the flail bears got to go first during the initiative roll-off. Finally, they showed up. They have 3 dice apiece, so that's 6 dice. 6s explode. 3 6s exploded. On that roll, another 6 exploded. They did so many wounds. The swordsmen tried to, rolled their defense, rolled terribly on defense. They had to make 6 parry saves. They failed all 6. 6 wounds. The flail bearers did 6 wounds. That lone swordsman was not able to do a single wound back. That changes everything. Up here, 1 spearman left. Those swordsmen are still standing. The archers continue to do really well backing up against these militia. And now they're reaching the edge of the board. It's going to be, interesting to see. What the peasant militia wanted was to at least cut those units in half to get a wound or a single victory point out of it. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen because they're only rolling a die apiece. So that's going to be 2 dice there when they charge in. And then on their turn, they'll probably just brace themselves. Why give the opposing unit a chance to attack? So They'll probably brace themselves. That's what they did up here, was they braced themselves. So, yeah. It's now going to be Lunar Knight phase, round 6. This is the final turn for the Lunar Knights. Can they pull it out after what was looking like a total wipeout over here? They may actually have a shot. So, let's come back at the end of turn 6, thus the end of the game. All right, folks, this is it. No, you're not looking at the final battle. I wanted this on camera. This is the end of turn 6, thus just about the end of the game. This is the final die roll. Oh my gosh, this is scary. Okay, so the flail bearers did lose a wound, which killed off that last flail bearer, so they are down to their banner bearer, but they were able to finish off that swordsman. The swordsmen up here were able to finish off that spearman without taking any wounds themselves. So close combat went to Lunar Knights. That's when the Regal Guard got crafty. Both of their archer units broke away. They both failed to break away without penalty, which meant they each take they take D6 attacks, unmodified. This unit, I don't believe, suffered any wounds. This unit actually took, I believe, 3 wounds. One more wound, and that would have been a victory point for cutting them in half. But as is, they both broke away. They both slid 2 inches either side. Of course, moving to the side is halves your movement, so it counts as double. So that's 4 inches of movement, 4 inches of movement. So that only counted as 1 movement action. They then each still had an action. So boom, 12-inch shot. Yep, sliding over there gave them just enough. 12 inches there. Barely just enough. 12 inches there. 12 inches is their max range. And again, line of sight from center of banner bearer to center of banner bearer is perfect on both sides. I already rolled the top one. The top one I wasn't worried about so much. They only have 4 shots. And the swordsmen have 4 wounds, essentially. So I was pretty sure they weren't going to do it. And they did not end up doing a single wound. Because moving and shooting, the dice are -1. Here's where it gets scary. 5 dice. They're all -1, but 5 dice against this lone flail bearer. He has 2 HP. He can only afford to take a single wound. If he takes 2 wounds, that unit is destroyed, and that is a total of 4 victory points. So it hinges on this. If these 5 dice, I'm going to roll them, and I'm going to roll them on camera too. -1 to all 5 of these dice, needing, he has armor 2, so 3s or better. So essentially 4s or better on these dice, because they'll all be -1 and they'll become 3s if they're rolled 4s. Oh, you guys have no clue how nervous I am. This is the game. If these archers fail to kill that banner bearer, Lunar Knights win. If the flail bearer, banner bearer is destroyed, Regal Guard will win. So it all comes down to this. So that's why I had to get this on cam. Let's set this down so that you can see the dice tray. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm freaking out here. Holy cow, this is scary. All right, why does this keep wanting to lean? Okay. Here we go. I'm rolling 5 dice. Oh my god, I've never been so scared in my life. These are all -1. 5 dice, they're all -1. After the -1, they need to be 3s or better to hit. And then he will get a defense roll, but it's unmodified, so it's the wild, wild west. Okay, I've talked long enough. 5 dice, these are all -1. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. I don't know if you can see with the glare. 1 is nothing. 1 is nothing. 3 becomes a 2, nothing. 6 becomes a 5 and potentially hits. 4 becomes a 3 and potentially hits. That's 2 dice, a 5 and a 3. We only have 2 dice to try to get a 5 and a 3. If these are double 1s, double 2s, a 1 and a 2, anything, we can take a wound. But if these are both double 1s, double 2s, a 1 and a 2, it's over. The flail bearer dies. He needs to get a 3 and a 5 or better, or he's dead. Oh, thank Christ! He blocked it both. 3 and a 5. He takes no wounds. Oh my gosh, that is insane. All right, let's do that's it, game over. Let's go ahead and do the post-game recap right now. All right, so here's what we have. We have a unit of spearmen, 2 troops left, a unit of banner bearers with just the flail bearers. So the Regal Guard actually did not completely destroy a single unit, though they absolutely put them through the meat grinder. Look at that. This is all that's left of the Regal Guard, the Lunar Knights army. Peasant militia, swordsmen, flail bearers. Here is what is left. And actually, this one I think was the one that had a wound on it. And then, or it may have been the other one. Either way, for the Regal Guard, they have 2 slightly wounded units of archers. All right. Here's how we tally this up. Here's what the Regal Guard destroyed. They destroyed half a unit of peasant militia, half a unit of peasant militia. They're only worth a point apiece. Cutting them in half a point apiece. So that will be 1 point for cutting those 2 units in half. 1 point for, doing at least half of the unit of swordsmen. And 1 point for at least half or more of the flail bearers. 3 points. 1, 2, 3 points is what they killed. Here's their kill pile. 3 points worth of Lunar Knights were killed. Here is what the Lunar Knights destroyed. 1 unit of swordsmen, 2 points. 1 unit of spearmen, 2 points. 4 points. That's it. They don't get any points for this because they didn't cut either of those units in half. Folks, can you get closer than this? Regal Guard, final score, 3 points. Lunar Knights, final score, 4 points. 4-3, victory goes to the Lunar Knights. Unbelievable. If that flail bearer failed that defense roll, that's 3 more points. Boom. That's a 4-point unit of flail bearers. They already got 1 point for cutting them in half, but that would have been 3 more points. That would have been 6 points to 4. 6-4. Regal Guard would have won. But as it stands, the Lunar Knights, I cannot believe it. I had to get that last roll on cam because that was absolutely insane. So that was the battle in the abandoned Marauder camp, and it's time to sticker our map. The Lunar Knights are on a bit of a roll right now. So, and it started off Regal Guard. Remember that first battle in the Forest of Arcadia? Oh my gosh. But now this map is looking a little blue, and I'm not talking about just the water either. So here we go. The Marauder camp battle has been won by the Lunar Knights of the Obsidian Eclipse, and that was Battle 4. Unbelievable. Look at all that blue. All right, folks. Thank you all so much for watching. Tomorrow's battle, where will we be next? Can the Regal Guard come back from 3 consecutive losses? We will find out. But as always, I appreciate it. And until tomorrow.